the autopsy of League of Nations. In the 1920s, it had few wins. In the 1930s, it died. We're going to look at the three major crises that proved the League of Nations was a paper tiger. It looked scary, but had no real power to stop that determined aggressor. The first blow came from the Far East. Japan was suffering from the Great Depression and needed resources. In 1931, they staged an explosion on the railway of Manchuria, China, and used it as an excuse to invade. China appealed to the League. The League's first big act test, a major power attacking a fellow member. What did the League do? It sent a group of officials on a boat. It took them a full year to even finish their report. By then, Japan had already conquered the whole province. The Leiden report finally came out. It said Japan was wrong. Japan's response? They simply walked out of the League. The League discussed economic sanctions, but Britain and France were terrified of war in Asia and would threaten their colonies like Hong Kong. They also knew that without the USA, sanctions wouldn't work. Japan got away with it, and dictators in Europe were watching very closely. While Manchuria was burning, the League tried one last time to get everyone to put down their guns. Germany pointed out a huge hypocrisy. If we were forced to disarm in 1919, but you haven't, either you all disarm in our level, or you let us rearm ourselves. France took terrified Germany, refused to disarm. Hitler, who just came to power, used this as a perfect excuse. He called the League unfair, walked out of the conference, and walked out of the League altogether. The final nail in the coffin was Abyssinia. Mussolini wanted an empire in Africa to show Italy's strength. He invaded with tanks and poison gas against a country that was fighting the 19th century rifles. Imperial Halshazi went to the League and gave a heartbreaking speech. "It is us today," he said. "It will be you tomorrow." The League was forced to act. Publicly, Britain and France supported the League, but behind the scenes they were terrified. They wanted Mussolini as an ally against Hitler. So the British and French foreign ministers had made a secret deal to give Mussolini 2/3 of Abyssinia. If he stopped fighting, then when this Horry-Lavaux Pact leaked to the newspapers, the public was outraged. It proved the League's leaders were willing to sell out a member to please a dictator. The League did try economic sanctions, but they were a joke. They banned the sale of rubber and tin, but not oil. Mussolini later said if the League had banned oil, he would have stopped in a week. Britain also refused to close the Suez Canal to Italian ships because they didn't want a risk of war. Mussolini finished his conquest, quit the League, and joined Hitler. The League was now a total joke. Surprisingly, the USSR joined the League in 1934. Stalin realized Hitler was a threat and wanted collective security. But because Britain and France had been so weak in Manchuria and Abyssinia, Stalin started to suspect that the West actually wanted Hitler to attack Russia. This lack of trust between the USSR and the West eventually led to the Nazi-Soviet Pact of 1939. Surprisingly, why did it fail? The USA was missing. Second, Britain and France always put down their national interests. Third, it was too slow. Taking a year to write a report is useless during an invasion. Fourth, it had no army of its own. It was a 19th century system trying to solve 20th century problems. By 1936, the League had failed to stop Japan, failed to stop Germany, and failed to stop Italy. Collective security was dead. Nations went back to the old diplomacy of secret alliances and rearmament. The world's police had gone out of business just as the world's criminals were just getting started. Thank you for listening today, and I hope you enjoyed it.